Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's 7th Street Productions' 31 Days of Halloween.
Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street, and welcome back to 7th Street Productions' 31 Days of Halloween, where we are currently counting down my personal favorite 31 horror films of all time. Zombie movies. Everybody loves them. I mean, it's such a huge thing today, and, you know, when I was growing up, zombie movies weren't really, like, that big. I remember going to, like, Hollywood Video, especially on my birthday when my friends would spend the night, and we would rent these old zombie movies. And there just wasn't really anything coming out. I mean, not until really, like, Resident Evil was really, for me, looking back on it, sort of the zombie resurgence. But during this time, you know, I only had older zombie films to watch, to educate myself. And it was like I said, on my birthday, I believe my 10th birthday, that me and my friends went to the video store and we rented 3 zombie films that to this day are still some of my favorite zombie films of all time. Of course, I always talk about Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead. We also rented the movie Revenge of the Dead, which isn't really a zombie film, but the cover portrayed it as such. And the other movie that we rented that night was the Dan O'Bannon classic, Return of the Living Dead. Not only did this movie become one of my favorite zombie films, but it became sort of like a really influential movie on like my style in high school. I used to like dress like the characters in this movie. The movie is hilariously convoluted. The story is about these 2 guys who work in a medical supply warehouse, played by James Karen and Tom Matthews, and they mistakenly open up a military vat that has this zombie gas in it that gets out and brings all the things in their medical supply warehouse back to life, including this frozen full corpse that they have in a freezer. And then they proceed to chop up the corpse, take it to the local crematorium, and burn it. Except for that's the worst thing that you could do in this scenario, because the zombie smoke rises into the atmosphere, mixes with the clouds, it rains on the local cemetery, bringing back all the old dead bodies back to life. And it just so happens that these 80s punk rockers are hanging out, partying in the cemetery when the zombies come back to life, and they end up, you know, running back to they sort of split up, but most of them end up at the crematorium with our other main characters, and they have to battle to try and survive the night. It's a comedy film first and foremost, and a horror movie second, which you know, it is just a quality, especially in like 80s films, that I really like. You know, movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Night of the Comet. This movie like fits right into that, where it's all super tongue-in-cheek and you're not supposed to take it, you know, very seriously. It's just a really, really fun film. There are some great effects in it. One of the interesting things about these zombies is it kind of introduced the fast-running zombie. I think a lot of people think of movies like 28 Days Later and the Dawn of the Dead remake as the first time the fast zombie was introduced, but really it was Return of the Living Dead that did that. But these zombies also can't be killed. You can shoot them in the head and they won't die. You can cut them into little pieces and the pieces will just come after you. So you have to like totally like incinerate these bodies, or maybe even like melt them down somehow, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer style, I guess. But yeah, I mean, this movie is just really fast-paced and really fun. I'm assuming that most zombie fans out there have already seen it, but if you're a zombie fan and you haven't, this is highly, highly recommended. For casual horror fans, I would still say, yeah, it's like a staple of 80s horror. It really is. And it hasn't been until recently that I realized that the movie is bigger than I originally thought. For years, I just thought that it was a really popular cult film. But looking back on it, I mean, even people who don't consider themselves horror fans but grew up in the 80s are aware of Return of the Living Dead and the whole brains thing. I mean, people still say brains to this day, even though this is the only movie where they specifically go after brains. So yeah, definitely. Highly recommended. It's a good one for Halloween. If it wasn't for the full frontal nudity in the film, I would say that it's even suitable for children. It's not overly gory. And it's definitely a film that I think teenagers would like. I know I sure did. So, yeah, definitely check it out.